And I will quote here, start with the United Nations Environmental Programme, which is writing, "Today we are witnessing at first hand what could be the onset of major human development reversal in our lifetime. Across developing countries, millions of the world's poorest people are already being forced to cope with the impacts of climate change. These impacts are often apocalyptic for the lives of those concerned, but not registered in the world by world media." And they write, "Such an outcome would represent not just a failure of political imagination and leadership, but a moral failure on a scale unparalleled in history. Future generations will pass a harsh judgment on a generation that looked at the evidence on climate change, understood the consequences, and then continued on a path that consigned millions of the world's most vulnerable people to poverty." All too often, they write, religious, cultural, and ethnic identity are treated as a source of division and difference from others. In the face of all these differences, climate change provides a potent reminder of the one thing we share in common. It is called planet Earth. And the link to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, because this Universal Declaration of Human Rights is actually a relatively recent declaration, and it was a response to the political failure that gave rise to extreme nationalism, fascism, World War II. And to counteract that, it established a set of rights, civil rights, political rights, cultural, social, and economic rights for, I quote, all members of the human family, unquote. The aim was to establish a code of conduct for human affairs that would prevent, quote, disregard and contempt for human rights that have resulted in barbarous acts which have outraged the conscience of mankind. Climate change is a human tragedy in the making, says UNDP, and allowing that tragedy to evolve would represent a systematic violation of the human rights of the world's poor and a step back from universal values. The real choice facing political leaders and people today is between universal human values on the one side and participating in the widespread and systematic violation of human rights on the other. So this is the human rights aspect. I think it is very important because this report, it was mentioned in the Norwegian press, because this is the same report where you have that human development report, where Norway used to be first, as the most humanly developed. But last year it was Iceland, so I don't know what they're going to do next year. It's a bit interesting. But this is what has been quoted in the press. What I've read from, which I think is extremely interesting statement coming from one of the most active, if not the biggest UN organizations, was not quoted. I started by quoting the conclusion of the report, Our Common Future. We are unanimous in our conviction that the security, well-being, and very survival of the planet depends on such changes now. And this word should also make us think of the word of a great man, Christian pastor, Martin Luther King. He wrote, "Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. We may cry out desperately for time to pause in her passage, but time is deaf to every plea and rushes on. Over the bleached bones and jumbled residues of numberless civilizations are written the pathetic word, too late." This, I think, is doubly interesting because these words were written by Martin Luther King, the book, which is called, the title is, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? And the chaos he feared was not the chaos of environmental crisis. It was another chaos, but the chaos he feared did not happen. The warnings were at least partly heeded. And why his word are reasoning that strongly is because the choice between chaos and community is standing in front of us again and again. It is possible to avert chaos. It has happened before. But we have to choose the human community. Thank you.